HIPAA privacy laws are so very complicated. Watch as Robin interviews healthcare attorney John Murdoch on the key points covered at the HIPAA seminar sponsored by Open MRI of Waltham.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Business Chat in the Hat. I'm your host, Robin Campbell, and today I have the honor of interviewing John Murdoch from Willens, Goldman & Spitzer. Hello, John.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me here.
Oh, thank you for coming. I'm going to put John in the hot seat. Today's topic surrounds the medical industry, we're talking about HIPAA compliance. And since John is an attorney at Willens, Goldman & Spitzer, he specializes in healthcare and is the best person, I think, to interview about this topic. So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how it ties in with
I started out as an insurance fraud investigator for the state of New Jersey, and I was there for about 6 years. While I was doing that, I went to law school at night. And
when did you sleep?
I had a couple hours on Saturday and Sunday where I could have like 2 or 3 hours. It was a crazy time. After I finished, I worked for 1 year as special assistant to the Commissioner of Banking and Insurance for the state of New Jersey, and then I joined the law firm of Willens, Goldman & Spitzer. What I did was took all the experience I had in investigating healthcare providers who had committed fraud and turned that around to help healthcare providers in complying with the law, because I believe that a lot of the healthcare providers out there today just don't have the information necessary to comply because it's so complex. There's so many laws. You have federal laws, you have state laws, and just pages upon pages. When I tell you there's thousands of pages of regulations, statutes, and then case law that affects what the healthcare providers do, it's just incredible. And if it's that much work for a healthcare attorney to stay on top of all these changes all the time, how can a physician who's dedicating all their energies into running their practice, how can they stay on top of this? Physician practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers and healthcare facilities absolutely have to be educated and knowledgeable about the HIPAA privacy laws, the security laws, and all the other privacy laws that affect their businesses and their practices. It's critical to understand these things because the requirements under the law have very severe civil and criminal penalties. But aside from that, it's vital to protect the confidentiality, integrity of the patient health information. And this is something that's core to a healthcare provider's practice.
One big headache. And scary. So I know HIPAA is something that scares a lot of those in the medical industry. And do you have any horror stories or anything that's...
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny what you say that, is that... Well, doctors are, again, just what I said, they're struggling with the issue because they don't really fully comprehend.
It sounds like it's so complex.
Oh, when I tell you, pages upon pages of regulations, and there's an interplay between the HIPAA regulations, this HIPAA security regulations, and state law, and whichever is more restrictive must have to be observed. One of the key requirements under the HIPAA privacy rules is you have one point person, a privacy officer, to basically be the main person who makes decisions regarding the use and disclosure of health information for the medical practice. And the practice also has to have a HIPAA security officer. They can be one and the same, but that's the officer that oversees the electronic health information and the uses and disclosures of that information. So it's very, very difficult for them to stay on top of it. And what we are seeing now is that while medical practices usually have a good control over their office environment, the big horror story now is missing laptops. It's happening with physician practices, it's happening with hospital systems, health plans. These laptops are being misplaced, lost, and a lot of times the person doesn't even know what was on the laptop. And what happens then is they have to go out and contact every one of the patients whose information might have been on there if it wasn't secured. And this is absolutely horrific. If the physician who's lost a laptop says, oh boy, it could have been 1,000 patients, you have to notify every one of those patients. And it's absolutely incredible what's involved.
Wow. So, I mean, with your background with the insurance investigation, it must have been such an interesting but scary job. What you can do for doctors, instead of them having to figure this all out for themselves, is, since you know the law, you can go in and help them set up the procedures in place and
exactly.
get some kind of handle on this crazy craziness.
We help the practices comply with the law. We're very practical. We want to get in there, get them up and running as quickly as possible, and be there for them for support. Train their staff to comply with the general issues that are going to come up day to day, and the very difficult, very technical issues that come up. They just pick up the phone, and we're there to assist them and to walk them through. But it's funny, doing all the healthcare regulatory work, we're getting the same questions almost every day. So we're in a position to be able to help as quickly as possible to providers with these complex issues they might not deal with on a day. And again, very, very scary situation. They're so afraid of doing the wrong thing and inappropriately disclosing patient information or holding back information that should be disclosed for treatment purposes. They're afraid of civil penalties. They're worried about bad publicity. A lot of the healthcare providers today are very, very frightened by all these regulations.
It feels like they can't move, take one step this way or one step that way, and it's just kind of scary to go in either direction.
Exactly.
Well, I know that John also will give seminars on different topics, and he's absolutely wonderful. He tells a couple of jokes along the way as well.
While there's no strict requirements on training a physician practice's staff on HIPAA compliance, I'd say at a minimum once a year. And any time that a staff member moves from one job to another or their duties substantially change, that training should be given. Annual training, I would say at least an hour, hour and a half, and it should be an update on the current status of the law and plenty of time to focus in upon the specific areas of each employee to make sure that they understand what they're supposed to be doing with the patient health information.
John, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you for further information, how would they go about doing that?
Sure, they can call me directly. Office number is 732-855-6008. They can always call my cell phone, 732-773-6920, or send me an email at jmurdoch@wilentz.com. That's J-M-U-R-D as in David, O-C-H, at WILENTZ.com.
Well, great. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's all the time we have for today. Join us next time on Business Chat in a Hat. Thanks, John.
Thank you. One critical issue that's come up time and time again is that healthcare providers are responsible for any person or entity that's doing work on their behalf that involves patient health information. If that person or entity, a business associate, improperly uses or discloses that patient health information, that covered entity is responsible. And that's something the covered entity must address in their contracts with the business associate and must take steps to make sure that those breaches don't occur.
The HIPAA privacy laws also create some complicated insurance situations. Call Robin at 732-247-9800 if you have any insurance questions.